tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Next time, right?
Exactly.
I mean, any of us as a parent could just be called out of the blue at any time and just be told you need to stay home in quarantine. So I mean, it almost feels inevitable.
I mean, you could be on a boat party and end up in quarantine.
That is true. You don't know that, right? All right, it's 7:28.
Big news. I have some important news for you. Interesting news.
It's Blake and Darren's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Morning, Sandy. How are you?
Morning.
Mike is on mute.
Good morning, Blake. How you doing?
How are you?
Whoa, I'm good. What a day yesterday was.
Yeah? Tell us about it.
Yeah, my gosh. Well, first of all, I feel like the world came to a standstill.
Yeah.
Because of the social media outage. It was so crazy.
You still had YouTube though.
Yes. And Twitter, I guess.
Yeah, well, Twitter was kind of funny. They actually posted something.
Oh my God, they were trolling.
And Twitter goes, hello, literally the entire world. Like, cause you know, the world was their oyster yesterday. There was no other competition.
Yeah, I saw that. No, it's so funny because, you know, that's where a lot of people be like, oh, why is traffic bad? Let me go check CMR, their Facebook page, and see if there's been an accident right here. And then no one could go do anything.
Yeah.
I know. It's It's unbelievable how much we rely on WhatsApp and other things. I mean, I have like Signal, I've got Telegram, but I never use those things. And so yesterday, all of a sudden on Telegram, I started seeing people, randomly show up that had never even had Telegram before. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I know. WhatsApp Business probably had a hard time yesterday.
Yeah, listen, even the WhatsApp app, like I've just come on my computer this morning and I was trying to.
Yeah, ours isn't working either.
The app doesn't work, so I guess I have to uninstall it and reinstall it. Like I
Something
don't know
I
what
don't know.
happened to them, but geez, this was major.
Yeah, and I still can't get into the Kiss FM Instagram either. So I don't know.
Really?
I don't know that. Yeah, there's some fallout just from yesterday's shenanigans with
So
all the
folks, if
social
you
media.
live in a hole in the wall, you obviously would not know that Facebook, who owns WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook, and Messenger, that goes along with Facebook, had a major outage yesterday from quite early in the morning, actually. I would say like maybe even as early as 10:30, 11 o'clock. And then it was gone until yesterday evening. So everyone was just like, what on earth?
I mean,
I had people texting me to say, you got any news for me?
Yeah.
Can you email me? I mean, I emailed my girlfriend yesterday. I was like, when was the last time literally that we emailed each other? Never in like the past 5-6 years. Because everything is on WhatsApp.
The kids now know how we grew up as kids with no internet.
Exactly. I found it kind of refreshing, though. I know you rely on it for what you do, but besides that, for somebody just as a user who feels obligated to check all the platforms to see what's going on, I felt like it was a nice little break yesterday for 8 hours.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a little bit like having some serious withdrawals for me. So every so often I'd pick up the phone, I'd look at it, and I'm like, okay, no WhatsApp messages. Let me just put the phone right back down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it was with myself today.
it was a little bit different. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So the other massive thing that happened yesterday is there was obviously the Legislative Assembly had this bill to consider, and there were debates all over the place for that. Quite interestingly enough, I got to listen to some of it early on, and then when I got on the road, that was it. But there were people who were like, "Oh, there's fireworks, Sandy. You got to go back and watch this thing." I was like, "Really?" I mean, usually the LA isn't that exciting. So when you hear that there were fireworks, you kind of get like excited. So I will go back for coverage purposes and so on. Of course, the opposition was milking the protesters that were out front. I mean, this was like the first time they've had anybody cheering for them in a while. So they were out there egging them on.
But if the opposition were in power, they would not support them. They would support the vaccination.
Yeah, this is the thing I think that people are not really asking themselves is, if the opposition was in power, what would their solution be? And I mean, it's like, go back and listen to some of the things that they said and see how contradictory. We're going to dive into some of that this morning, but, see how incredibly contradictory their comments were. I'm like, listen, people can say anything in the moment, but you need to look at their history in terms of, what they said before and what they've done before that should lead you to any sort of real conclusions about what they could have possibly been doing at a time like this. Because everybody right now is trying to curry favor, as Caribbean people would say, with whatever they think is the wave of the moment. And it takes a lot to stand up despite that and say, listen, this is the right thing to do.
Do the right thing.
This is the only fighting chance we have. And I tell you what, yesterday, New Zealand decided that any travelers into their country are going to have to be vaccinated as well. There are other countries that have implemented that. TCI, for example, like around the Caribbean, the only way that people are sort of semi-successfully reopening to tourism is if they implement you've got to be vaccinated policy. Yeah. And so, I think one of the unusual things for us in particular, maybe compared to some other jurisdictions, is not only do we rely on tourism, but we import a lot of labor. So we rely heavily on foreign labor. So I completely understand the government's position as it relates to this. And when Mr. Saunders yesterday in the Legislative Assembly, I think it was Mr. Saunders, it might have been the premier, actually say, listen, at the end of the day, when you think about, okay, we're aiming for 80%. If we achieve the 80% and then we have an influx because we reopen and we have an influx of thousands of laborers into this country, that 80% is going to immediately drop to a significant number because we rely so heavily on imported workers. And so what's the point of even trying to get to 80% when we can't even hope to maintain it because we're importing people who wouldn't be vaccinated? So when he explained it like that, I said, to me, that makes total sense. And I get it. Yeah.
So when do we find out what happens with the debate yesterday? Has there been any conclusions? When will those conclusions happen?
You know what? I went to bed late last night and they were still up and debating. So I don't even know what time the assembly, concluded. But
maybe was there a filibuster yesterday?
No, I tell you what, the opposition, the one thing that I do know is that I'm trying to find out here.
No law.
I do know that they did like a preliminary they did a preliminary vote and it was like 11-7. So I know that the opposition, not the opposition, my apologies, the government really stood together and they made sure obviously they were all in attendance as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an important message to send because there's a lot that happens politically that a lot of people are not aware of. I mean, unfortunately, the opposition holds on to hope that they will be able to still undermine the government and still pull people away. This is factual. Like there's hardly ever a week, Blake and Aaron, that people are not calling me, oh my gosh, what is the government okay? Because, the opposition is planning this and they're telling their supporters this and that. I'm just like, ugh, they need to get over it, right? I mean, the election was like almost 6 months ago, but their thing is they've got up until a year. This is what they've said internally within their ranks, is that they haven't up until a year. I don't know why a year, but whatever, to try to see if they can pull apart any member of the government. So I'm glad to see that they've stuck it out. I mean, the people, I think, made their position very, very clear after the election, and this situation, isn't gonna change that. So yeah, we'll see.
Anything else happening crazy?
Yeah, listen, this evening, a lot of parents, Aaron, I know you're at home in isolation at the moment. A lot of parents are very concerned about the recent COVID cases in schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so we announced even yesterday that the principal of Prospect Primary has resigned.
Wow.
The official reason is she's got, to go back home to Scotland. I think unofficially she's just stressed to the max. She's never had anything to deal with like this before. And so this evening at 7:00, we have, as part of her CMR COVID Spotlight Series, episode 5, which is going to be focusing on COVID-19 and children. And we actually have Dr. Espinosa coming on board, and she's a board-certified pediatrician and pediatric infectious disease specialist. I've done a lot of research, including perinatal, and congenital infections, hepatitis, and vaccines. So I think anyone who's a parent or who cares about hearing from an expert specifically as it relates to COVID-19 and children, you'll definitely want to tune in for that at 7:00. YouTube and Facebook is where you can watch it.
That sounds great.
Oh, it's a really good one. I really appreciate that. But yeah, no, I mean, I feel bad for the principal. Yeah, I saw that on your site. It's like, it has to be super stressful because you're teaching. That's what you went to school for. That's what your degrees are in. And now all of a sudden you're meant to be kind of almost a nurse and a doctor at the same time.
Yeah. It's stressful. But by the way, Scotland's not the right time to go. This time of year. It's cold, it's rainy, it's snowy.
I love that.
It's not the right time to go to Scotland.
Yeah.
Summer's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad.
So
really quick, I wanted to ask you, what was the RCFPS release yesterday about somebody that was wanted? Do you know more about that?
You know what? I kind of briefly glanced at it, but I didn't even get to put it up on our website.
Okay.
So I don't know much about it, I'm afraid. Let me just see if I can tell you what
it was. Something about like a shooting. Like
wanted man Michael Lopez Watler.
Yeah.
Oh, he looks a little bit familiar. So they said that basically they're looking for him. He's known to frequent the Eastern District, okay, and in relation to a firearm incident. Wow. Okay.
Keep your eyes peeled.
July the 10th.
See something, say something.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, the authorities need you. They definitely.
All right, Sandy. Well, I'm glad you're back up on Facebook. And
yes, thank you, and WhatsApp, most importantly.
Yeah, and YouTube, and we will catch you tomorrow on the show. Today is Truthful Tuesday on CMR, right?
Awesome.
Yep.
Yes. Every day is truthful, but definitely we bring it in a little bit extra on Tuesdays.
And check out the special tonight at 7:00. It's for if you're a parent. That sounds very interesting. So we'll try to catch that as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
See you later, Aaron. What do you got coming up?
Bye. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What a day yesterday. Woohoo! I got my tea in my hand. I spent most of the night up coughing, to be honest. I actually slept in late this morning. I was so tired. I was just like, oh my gosh, tired. All right, give me 1 second here. I'm going to do something really quickly. Yes, indeed. All right, good folks. Buenos dias. Good morning. Who we got with us? Miss Alice is here. Good morning, my darling. We've got Diamond Princess, Marshall from North Carolina. Evelyn is in the house. Jermaine is here. Greetings from NYC. Hey, Jermaine, how you doing? From New York. Evelyn, I trust you had a fantastic night. Yeah, I totally overslept. Oh my gosh, I was so tired last night that I actually fell asleep first on the sofa, and then I got up and I thought, oh, just go to bed. It's like 10:30. I took a little snooze on the sofa because I really am just tired, and my body's trying to fight this cold, and I'm like, just go to bed. And I had good intentions to go to bed, and then I was up until like 1 o'clock in the morning. You lose that window of opportunity. Like when you're tired, if you don't get up, like if you fall asleep on the sofa, or you take a nap somewhere else, if you don't get up and go straight to bed and you wake up and you kind of get the adrenaline moving again, that's it. Forget it. So I missed that window and I was up until 1 o'clock. Miss Lizette, Jackie, good morning. Virtuous, I know I need to come and see you. I need to see you and somebody else. There's like 2 people on my list, and you're one of the 2. I think there might even be 3 people now on my list for the same purpose. I need to come and see you. Melanie, how are you? Joining us in the UK. So this footage, folks, literally impacted as far as I know, everybody who uses Facebook, which would be millions of people around the world. Even this morning, I had to reinstall the Facebook app on my computer. Yeah, that wasn't even working anymore. So Facebook, obviously, we're not particularly happy. Some sort of DNS error message to most of us, that means absolutely nothing. You're like, what the heck is DNS? I don't even know what that means. But Facebook had a really hard time fixing whatever this is, apparently. So they really impacted everyone. So Lavanya says that it impacted her business because there are people who rely on WhatsApp, as Lavanya does, for their orders. Clients messaging for lunch orders. So yes. She said 95% of her customers order through WhatsApp. And isn't it weird, Lavana, how people won't even pick up the phone and call? Like, it's very, very unusual. I had people texting me But in terms of calling, I think I got one call late yesterday that was like, do you know when Facebook is going to be up? So a few people text and a few people said, oh, Sandy, can you add my email to the email list? Because we did send out an email yesterday notifying people that Facebook was down. And a few people replied and said, oh, I was wondering what was going on. Thanks for the info. So we have more than one way of reaching customers, obviously. We do have an extensive what's it called? Database, an email database. And that includes being able to email people if we need to. Our email list is like, oh my gosh, like 8,000 people or something ridiculous. But we've had that email list for years and years and years. So yeah, we shot out a quick email to say, hey, in case you're wondering, this is what's happening. And people were wondering. So who else was impacted by the outage? Debbie, good morning. Good morning, Miss Sue. Felicia, how are you? Moya, Diamond Princess said people don't really know how political ideology works. They need to do a course on it, read some books about it, or better yet, watch videos on YouTube. Well, the problem, Diamond Princess, is, to be quite honest, what I find here is we are politically immature. And I don't mean that as an insult to anybody. We just, we're young when it comes to politics, and we've only just recently had parties, and our parties continue to be about personalities and absolutely nothing to do with political ideology. The progressives cannot tell you what their ideology is, what they stand for. They just stand for keeping in power. That's their ideology. Let's keep the progressives in power no matter what. And so they flip and flop, all over the place. They have no real ideological differences between them. And when the UDP was around, the UDP has since fallen apart, looks like. So it just doesn't happen. And the need to stay in power is so immense and so great. I mean, it surprises me on the one hand, but when you do understand, as Diamond Princess says, some of what's happening in the background, the favors that they have to deliver on, the millions of dollars that would have been spent to keep them in power over the years, then you understand why they do the things that they do. And there's a video that was circulated yesterday with what's his name? Leader of the opposition out there, like cheering on these protesters. And I thought to myself, this is so interesting. Couple of things. There were times when protesters were out there, when they were responsible, for example, for dealing with the Mr. Bush situation. And the protesters were out there and they were so afraid. The same government who's out there now, they were so afraid to come out to the protesters and face the protesters. These people don't get any respect from me. Like, seriously, I look at them and I just shake my head. They don't get one iota of respect from me. They're playing games with our lives, all because of wanting to stay in power. And so for that, I'm just like, yeah, no, you don't get my respect. The interesting thing I was thinking about yesterday, first of all, there was no social distancing at that protest, none whatsoever. There was no enforcement, more importantly, of any of the regulations. So I don't know where the police were, but they didn't enforce anything. They weren't wearing their masks. They weren't social distancing. And someone said to me, this is quite ironic because what it demonstrates is, the rules apply to some and not all. So where were the police? This is what someone said. Yeah, let me see. Oh, hold on. I need to scroll up a little bit. Okay, so they say, is there no one that's going to address the fact that there were blatant breaches of the COVID prevention protocol and nothing has been done about it? And I say, funny you should ask that, because somebody else almost at the exact same time is messaging me saying that this is a breeding ground for the next COVID spike. And they call them idiots. Well, I'm just reading what they call them. And, anyone who would be in contravention of those provisions, even for their own safety, are kind of stupid. And the person goes on to say, Roy and company should be shot in the face with their own SHI, you fill in the blank. So I said, yeah. And I said, well, I mean, the opposition. Oh, the other person said, well, it looks like they're also not wearing masks and are not distancing when interacting with protesters. So this is now the actual opposition, which is so funny. So they were also in breach. It just enforces the idea that these protocols are selectively enforced. So I said, yep. I think that's pretty obvious. So yeah, that's what it is. No enforcement, but they were out there trying to ride that bandwagon. And I was thinking about how not that long ago, some of the same protesters were protesting against other people to not have their say, right? And I thought about this for a second, and the opposition said, there was something that the opposition leader said in his prepared statement about how this is going to open up the government to possible litigation, and they should really think closely about this because this is discriminatory. And I got to tell you something. I was driving when I was listening to this part, and I had an aha moment, because I said, the nerve of anybody in the opposition pretending to care about the leadership of this country. Oh, sorry. You know what happened to me yesterday? I was so busy. I forgot to take the Tamiflu medication, which I'm sure would have helped significantly. So this morning I got to take one of those. But yeah, I'm like, the gall of this government to actually pretend that they care about litigation, to me, is so funny. Because this is the same government. Let's pick this apart for just a moment here. This is the same government who ignored correspondence from Chantal Day and her partner Vicky that could have prevented litigation in this country. They wouldn't even have a conversation with these individuals. They wouldn't not only would they not have a conversation with them, after the courts told them to, get it done, pass the legislation, they wouldn't do it. They sat on this for many, many, many years. And, that now they sit in judgment of others as though they have set a wonderful example of how you do it. This is when I tell people to really pay attention to what people say and what they do, because their track record speaks for itself. These guys are just, listen, they're blowing with the wind. In whatever direction they think the wind is going at the moment, they're going to jump on that bandwagon. Good morning, Daisy. Tracy, did you change your, this is your YouTube name. Yes. Hello, Olivia. Katie, thank you so much for joining. And yes, I've got this cold. I'm like, So yeah, I was coughing all night, yeah. Kay is here, the beautiful Anne Marie. Alex, how you doing? So yeah, pick it apart, people. Don't be sheeple. I was sitting there driving and shaking my little head. I was like, listen, two things that insult me is liars and people who don't believe that you remember what happened in the past. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, folks, that this government sat down. If they were so concerned about litigation, they would have done what they needed to do, and they didn't do that. They could care less. They have spent I suspect millions of dollars. They will never tell us, but I suspect at least hundreds of thousands, if not pushing into the $1 million mark. Because when you start hiring a QC, they don't come cheap, honey. They're not stepping foot on this island for less than $100,000. You better believe that. And they spent all kind of money litigating a position that they knew was completely wrong. Even after the court said, get it together. This same government who's now telling you, oh, well, you know, they run a chance of getting sued. Behave yourself, progressives. I wasn't impressed. None at all. The games that people play, you know, people could only be honest. What a better world we would be in, right? Can you imagine if everybody was honest? Oh my God. Imagine that world. I think part of the problem is, good morning, Larry, is that a lot of people wouldn't be able to handle it if people were honest, right? A lot of people don't like, they love you lying to them. Don't lie to me, because I'm highly insulted when people lie to me, because when someone lies to me, they're saying that, number one, I think you're stupid and you're going to believe this lie. And there's an element of, you know, you're trying to obviously deceive the person that you're lying to. And then the question becomes, why? What is wrong with the truth? Is it a hard pill to swallow? Like, why not just tell people the truth? Melanie says, I actually asked my kids yesterday if Snapchat was still online in case mom needs to switch to the kids channel. That's funny. Isn't it funny how certain things are geared towards, you know, how certain things are geared towards like different audiences? So the vast majority of people are still on WhatsApp. Signal, if you're super paranoid, Danny, that's you. You love you a Signal. Danny is like, go on Signal. I got something to tell you. I'm just like, is it a top secret? Oh, we're going to talk about the weather today. I don't care if anybody knows that, you know. Signal is the most secure, folks. So I got to give it to Denny. He knows what he's talking about in terms of security. Most of you don't really care too much about what you're saying. Like who's going to, you know, who's going to be listening to your conversations. But if you're concerned about privacy, then Signal is the way to go. So yes, the outage was quite something, I must say. I've never even downloaded Snapchat. I don't even know what it looks like, to be honest. I've never been inclined to use it. Michelle says people have businesses that there's medium for communication. So if a person wants a break from social media, all they need to do is log out. No need to impact everyone. So I don't know if we know. I'm going to have a quick look here to see if we know what actually happened. I mean, this was news all over the world. This impacted a lot of people. And absolutely, there are businesses who rely on WhatsApp, who rely on Facebook for communication. So what we know happened is there's a lot actually that was going on with Facebook, including the fact that recently there's been some whistleblowers who have gone to the media, and now they're in Capitol Hill talking about what Facebook does. Now, their stocks really took a hit yesterday, partially because of the outage, 6% down yesterday. Can you believe that already? As well as because of all this news that's coming out. So people are losing a little bit of faith. And Facebook as a platform. Of course, Facebook owns Instagram and the WhatsApp platform as well. But there's a whole investigation that has gone on about how Facebook is targeting youngsters on purpose, and the fact that they know that, for example, Instagram is not the place that you want young people to be on. I mean, Instagram, all these platforms are actually very addictive. And me, myself, was suffering from withdrawal symptoms yesterday. That's why I kept picking up my phone, looking at my phone to see if I was going to hear any little pings. It's like the Pavlov, what's it called? The Pavlov experiment where the dog drools every time he hears the bell or whatever, because after a while that was associated with getting a treat. Our brains have been trained. So every time we hear that ding of the WhatsApp on our phones, we can't help but look. You know how difficult it is for me not to pick up my phone when I know that there's a message there and immediately want to read it? Oh my God, it is addictive. And days like yesterday remind me of how incredibly addictive it is. Yes, I use it for business. I use it for communicating, and that's how the vast majority of people send me information. Like 99.99% of the people are messaging me on WhatsApp. So we do need it, but it's also an addiction. And so young people are addicted as well. And their brains are a little bit different than ours. At least, like Aaron was saying on 106 this morning, we kind of grew up a little bit, depending on your age, of course, in a time when we can remember life without WhatsApp. Y'all remember BlackBerry Messenger? Yeah. Man, I used to use Messenger. That was hot too. What did we use before BlackBerry Messenger? Because there wasn't really instant messaging then. I guess we had, what was the one that was on the computer called again? Not Skype, because Skype is still around. This one was called, was it Windows Messenger? There was something else that we used to use on PCs and stuff. But once it came to the phone, that really was like a whole other situation. Right? So here's what The Verge had to say yesterday. It says, in the chaos of Monday's Facebook outage, it's easy to lose sight of the company's reach. Not being able to post a new photo to Instagram is an annoyance, but it's not necessarily catastrophic. Yet for WhatsApp users, especially outside the US, losing Facebook's encrypted messaging service is a life-halting change. And one competing messaging service was eager to capitalize on that. And, we don't think about these things, that there are people around the world who actually need to use these services because of their encryption capability to be able to communicate, because they don't live in countries where they can have a platform like CMR and communicate freely with each other. The article continues. In February of last year, WhatsApp announced that it had 2 billion users worldwide. Compare that to the original flavor of Facebook's 2.5 billion. And it's easy to see how many lives WhatsApp touches. It's become the default method to contact people in plenty of countries, including about 400 million unique monthly users in India. Wow. That goes beyond casual communication as well. WhatsApp is also focused on becoming a critical tool for business. I use WhatsApp Business. I don't know how many of you even know that there is a WhatsApp Business, but that's what I use on my phones. Yeah. And there's special features on WhatsApp Business. So yeah. The app already takes in app payments in Brazil and India. On top of that, WhatsApp claimed in October that 175 million people globally use the app to message businesses every single day. 175 million people are using it to message businesses. So with WhatsApp down, that means that calls and messages to friends and family can go unanswered, customer service requests unaddressed, and vital organizing information undisseminated. The secure messaging app is frequently also one of the many tools organizers use to lead demonstrations and protests, unless it's blocked. So in some countries, they block it. A WhatsApp outage is a huge problem for the people who rely on it, but a possible boon for competing encrypting messaging apps. The major players, Signal and Telegram, at least in the US, iMessage, all stand to benefit from when Facebook and WhatsApp fumble. So far, at least, only Signal has taken a public victory lap. The company wasn't able to disclose specific figures to The Verge, but they did say that Signal was hitting levels of new signups on par with January of this year. So remember, that happened in January because WhatsApp was going to be deploying this new controversial private policy, initiative or whatever. They kind of pull back from that. So Telegram and Apple did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Facebook is restoring its services. It'll take some time before we know how many people are actually affected by the Facebook outage, negatively impacted. But for now, it's safe to say that it's probably a lot more annoying than not being able to update your stories. So very, very interesting. And apparently there are people who work for Facebook because they have a Oculus virtual service as well. That was also down. And there were other people who work for Facebook who were not able to get into their offices with their swipe card. So don't know yet what it is, what happened. Was this intentional? I mean, obviously Facebook didn't do this themselves. Was it somebody else that did this? Was it just like, it's technology. Crap happens. Things go down. Trust me, I know, we run systems, we run a website. And, when things like this happen, man, you're just like, damn, it's a real hit. You hope that when it happens, that it literally is just going to be a couple minutes sort of thing. But when it's longer than that, it can really, really impact you. So 2 hours ago, according to CNBC, Facebook has apologized for mass outage and reveals why it happened. So here's what they've said. Sorry. So Facebook has apologized for the mass outage that left billions of users unable to access Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger for several hours. Several hours. That was an all-day outage. And they've said to all the people and businesses around the world who depend on us, we're sorry for the inconvenience caused by today's outage across our platforms. This is Facebook's Santosh Janarjan, who's their VP of infrastructure. The outage, which prevented users from refreshing their feeds or sending messages, was caused by configuration changes on the backbone routers without specifying exactly what the changes were. The changes caused issues that interrupted the flow of traffic between routers and Facebook's data centers around the world, he added. This disruption to network traffic had a cascading effect on the way our data centers communicate, bringing our services to halt. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp stopped working shortly before noon Eastern Time, when the websites and apps for Facebook services were responding with server errors. Just after 7 p.m., around 6 hours after the platforms went offline, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg wrote on his Facebook page, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger are coming back online now. Lucky him, he must have been one of the first people to get access. He added, sorry for the disruption today. I know how much you rely on our services to stay connected with the people you care about. The outage marked the longest stretch of downtime for Facebook since 2008. Whoa. When a bug knocked the site offline for about a day, and at that time, that affected 80 million users, and the platform currently has about 3 billion users. In 2009, a similar outage lasted about an hour. I remember that one. 2019, sorry. Facebook blamed the server configuration change for that outage. Seems to me that when they do these configuration changes, maybe they should really test them first. And I know sometimes that's easy for non-technical people to say, such as myself. But, my husband works in IT, and I know that sometimes with the best of intentions, you think that, this change isn't going to do anything except improve services and whatever. And it takes the whole system down. So the outage came one day after the whistleblower who leaked private internal research to both the Wall Street Journal and Congress revealed herself ahead of an interview with 60 Minutes. The documents first reported in a series of journal stories revealed that the company's executives understood the negative impacts of Instagram among younger users and that Facebook's algorithm enabled the spread of misinformation, amongst other things. Well, I'm not surprised because, you see all this misinformation on Facebook. Other platforms will actually take it down. I told you guys last week that YouTube has said they're going to become more vigilant, especially when it comes to COVID-related misinformation, but generally speaking. that they're going to start taking this stuff down. You know what happens when you report misinformation to Facebook? They put a little screen over it saying, oh yeah, this has been debunked, but they still leave the misinformation up there. I'm like, what's the point of that? Because the people who are sharing it and propagating it and who want to believe it, they have blinders on where they don't see that message that said, oh, this is actually false. And it's already been verified that it's not true. They still don't see that. And they keep sharing it. And I'm thinking, why would Facebook leave up misinformation? They do need to get it together. And I understand how massive it must be to have 3 billion customers. You can imagine having just 1% of that for your little business. We'd all be millionaires. It wouldn't just be Mark Zuckerberg making the big bucks. So, you know, at the end of the day, folks, we're back online. It is what it is. You know, we wouldn't be here right now having this discussion. Well, I mean, we're on YouTube, so I guess there's always that. If it wasn't for Facebook. So Facebook has enabled us as people to communicate so much easier with each other. And it's fantastic. I mean, right now, let me give you an example. We have 206 people on Facebook watching, and on YouTube, we have 64 people. So yeah, I mean, if we didn't have Facebook, I suppose people would pop over to YouTube, but a lot of people still prefer Facebook as their primary source of communicating with each other and seeing what's going on in the lives of people, of their friends and family and just whatever. Rhonda, good morning. She said the police are driving around in their air-conditioned car that we provide for them. When was this? This morning or yesterday? Well, child, they're always driving around their AC cars. A few of them use the bikes, but not that many. Good morning, Miss Judy. Thank you, Lulu. Miss Sue says, so true, and lose their memory too. I'm assuming we're talking about politics. Junior says Mark Zuckerberg is covering his ass. Listen, they've lost money yesterday because of the outage, so I don't think that was intentional. Stocks are down. They closed at almost 5% on Monday, but they were up over 1% in pre-market trading on Tuesday. They'll recover. Listen, when you're a billionaire or whatever the heck his net worth is, 5%, I mean, it hurts investors, no doubt. And the more important thing is your reputational damage. So it's not even about, I feel like I need to sit down today. Like I really am feeling a little bit like, ooh. I may go get my chair. But yeah, I mean, without a doubt, you know, Facebook took a hit and it's not good. And, you know, there are shareholders who are nervous about everything that's happening with Facebook right now. So another headline says, as Facebook suffers its worst sell-off of the year, a reluctant shareholder shares her next move. There's another thing in Reuters. Facebook again asked judge to dismiss U.S. lawsuit to force sale of Instagram and WhatsApp. So this is another situation that's brewing for them. They got it at all angles, but you know, they've got lawyers that can help them get it sorted out. So they asked a judge on Monday to dismiss the U.S. government's revised antitrust case that seeks to force the social media giant to sell Instagram and WhatsApp. So the government is trying to pull this apart. So Facebook said in a court filing that the Federal Trade Commission had failed to provide a plausible factual basis for branding Facebook as an unlawful monopolistic. The company added that it appears that FTC had no basis for its naked allegation that Facebook has or had a monopoly. Social media giant, asked that the lawsuit be dismissed with prejudice, which would make it harder for the agency to amend the lawsuit. And the FTC declined to comment. Judge James Borsberg of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia ruled in June that the FTC's original complaint filed in December failed to provide evidence that Facebook had a monopoly power in the social networking market. So this is quite interesting. So the FTC is trying to force them, and you gotta be careful of government overreach. So of course there's that concern. Like, who's the FTC to tell Facebook that they must sell Instagram and WhatsApp? Do they dominate the market? They do dominate the market, but is it a monopoly? No, you got choices. You can go to Telegram. You can go to WhatsApp. WhatsApp. You can go to Telegram. You can go to Signal. What else is there? There's Skype messaging. What else exists in terms of the messaging world? I think there's a few others out there. There's one called, I had to download it to deal with some people and I hate it. And now I no longer have to deal with those people. It's called, oh God, I actually meant to uninstall it from my phone. What the heck is that messaging app called again? It's called Discord. You know what? I'm gonna delete Discord right now. Remove app right from my phone. Delete it. I hated it from the onset, but I was dealing with particular people who use it. So you've got Signal, Telegram, Skype, Magic Jack, WhatsApp. So Digicel has their own platform. So I had people messaging me yesterday. They're like, "Oh, there's a message from 516, blah, 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 blah. Just download the Digicel app." And I was like, I'm not downloading another app on my phone. Listen, I got a hard enough time trying to keep up with just WhatsApp for business. So who is this person that messaged me from that number? Oh, it's not even someone who normally messages me. I'm looking now because I can check them on WhatsApp. So the last message I got from them was like July the 15th. We're not going to be chatting every day, honey child. WhatsApp me. So, poor Facebook. Let's move on. Louis, good morning. Good morning, Lorna. We haven't seen you in a while. Debbie says we've been programmed. Well, it's easy to get programmed. And I think this is where you need to be careful with children because their little brains do work differently. So I'm not, as much as I love technology, I'm really not an advocate of putting technology in the hands of children too young, especially if it's going to be the type of technology that you can't monitor very well. So I'm one of those parents. I love me some technology. We live in a household where we're talking to Alexa and she's turning on lights and playing music for us and, turning on the TV and all sorts of stuff. So my daughter is growing up in a very different kind of world than I grew up in. But when it comes to her, like having a personal messaging device, I'm like, can we wait until she's 16? For security reasons, you kind of do want them to have a phone, but can we get her one of those granny phones where it's like she can text and that's it? No downloading of apps or anything else? That's how I feel about it. Pretty crazy, but yeah. MSN Messenger. Thank you, Michelle. Yes, that's what it was called, girl. Yahoo Messenger. I wasn't into Yahoo. I was never much of a Yahoo person. Even just going to yahoo.com to, read their news. And sometimes they do news a little bit differently. I hardly ever do it. I'm looking at it right now. Headline news. Facebook reveals cause of massive outage. Poor them. MySpace. I never use MySpace, Junior. Nope. ICQ. What's ICQ? Was that a chat app? It was MSN Messenger. And then I think maybe Windows Messenger as well I've used. ICQ. That one kind of sounds familiar, but I don't feel like I ever really used it. Katie says by taking down Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram simultaneously, Facebook was able to show that even though their tactics of keeping everyone plugged in are working, people still allow Facebook to carry on as they did because no one wants to give those apps up. Well, listen, honestly, apps come and apps go. So yes, at the moment, Facebook is definitely the leader. Larry, you only lost it for 2 hours? You did pretty good. Most of us, it was an all-day situation. Jonathan says the camera is blurry today. Hold on a second. Let me have a quick look. To me, it always looks good because I'm actually looking at the camera and the screen that I'm looking at doesn't show me any blurriness, but let me check and see. I have to check Facebook. Oh, yeah, it's not the best quality. Let's refresh it and see what happens. That's Facebook still trying to get their stuff together, I'm sure. So give me 1 second. We'll play a quick commercial. I need to actually get some water. Let me see what I can play in the interim. Kevin, let me play one of your videos. Shout out to Kevin Watler. I feel like he's my new co-host. Like he's bringing a lot of content to CMR these days. Let's watch a quick video. I'm going to grab me some fresh water, and I might even grab a chair today, and let's learn something in between.
Epidemiologist is pretty much a disease detective, and we had one on the CMR COVID Spotlight show where we've learned some really valuable information. I do recommend everyone watch the entire show, which is available on the Cayman Mall Road Facebook or YouTube page. However, if you don't have time to watch the entire show, I did pick out a few highlights from the show, and here it is.
The doctors and the physicians tend to have 90 to 95, 100% vaccination uptake, and the kind of further you go down the education chain, the more you see the vaccination rates drop. So nurses will typically see 50 to 70% vaccination uptake, and then when you go down to the other support staff, the assistants, the aides, you'll see less than sometimes 20 to 30% vaccine uptake. And, there's a variety of factors at play. Some of it is that we tend to speak to the level of a physician about education for vaccines and the value, and we throw out terms like efficacy and effectiveness. We tend to talk over some individuals, and we're not messaging well enough at the education level that's understandable and relatable for some of the other staff. Some of it's cultural, some of it's general distrust for the authority, or they don't want to have to follow instructions. So there's a vaccine resistance is a very complicated topic, and there's a variety of reasons, but really one of the stronger predictors across almost any field is your general level of education, and we have to do a better job in public health of identifying that and working to speak to those populations better. It's right. Definitely something the entire public health community has to recognize and do a better job on.
Yeah.
The vaccine is one way you're going to get immunity, and the other way you're going to get immunity is if you get sick.
Right.
And at some point, everyone will probably have either of those. And it's going to come down to the pace at which either of those immunity types start to go away. If either of those things start to go away while we still have virus that's capable of making people sick again circulating, then you have the chance.
Oh, my apologies. I tried doing the refresh during that segment, not realizing that would actually remove the video. So hold on, I'm going to pull it back in. 1 second.
Epidemiologist is
surfaces or food items or things like that are a major player in the way that COVID spreads in the community. The virus, when it lands on something like a gas pump or something like that, it doesn't really live for that long. And most of the time when you're touching that type of stuff, it's just on your hands, your fingers. It does not get into your body that way. It is why we tell people to remind themselves to wash their hands. You don't want to be putting dirty hands anywhere. But really the main way that the virus spreads is by being around people that are sick and breathing in the air from someone that's infected. We don't really see transmission occur really in almost any other way in any significant numbers.
There's such a thing as any vaccine being 100% effective. How do we eradicate other diseases? Like, how did we get there? Is it just because of the high vaccination numbers, or was that particular vaccine 100% effective or somehow better?
Actually, it's I'm sure we're going to transition to contact tracing, but it's a combination of the use of vaccines that are very effective but not perfect, right, and then aggressively doing case identification and contact tracing when those cases occur. So for illnesses like smallpox, polio, measles that we've really done a great job in the United States of either completely eliminating or nearly eliminating. It's a combination of the use of vaccines with a strong public health system to identify cases and identify contacts and make sure that you stop the transmission chain for those diseases. Understanding variants, it gets very complicated very quickly. And so I'm going to do my best, but variants occur because there's lots of different types of proteins, and the structure of the virus is actually made up with different types of proteins. And based on the way that those proteins have changed or evolved, if they change in a significant way, enough that it's different from its ancestor or where it came from, then we start calling it a variant. And so these things are happening all the time. The viruses are constantly changing. And we really only start kind of watching it when it starts to have characteristics that appear to be different enough to change either the clinical presentation. So maybe someone gets sicker because of this change. Maybe someone gets sicker for longer or quicker. Maybe it actually is a change that makes someone who's been vaccinated not respond to this now type of the virus. And we've seen different parts of different viruses have some of those characteristics, but not all of them. And with the mu variant, the characteristic that has become concerning for scientists studying it is it does appear that it's a virus that escapes the vaccines that we've developed right now. Having vaccine immunity from someone who's gotten vaccinated may not protect you as well against this variant. So just because the virus has that characteristic doesn't really tell us a lot about whether it's going to show up in large numbers or even, really play a major role in any one city or jurisdiction. So I like to look at, what these are doing over time. And right now, this is a very new variant. We're certainly monitoring it, and I'm sure every jurisdiction, at the state, national, and global level is kind of paying attention. And it really comes down to, does the variant have enough of a characteristic that starts allowing it to spread from one person to another in significant numbers that really have to change the way that we're thinking about it? And that's, to go back to the Delta virus, the reason it became such a big news story is because it was able to displace the variant we had before. It overtook previous variants and kind of pushed it out of the way and said, I'm the only one that's going to spread around anymore. And so now we had to deal with the fact that it was the one that was spreading all over. I personally don't think we've seen enough to show that the mu variant has the capability to do that, but that's what epidemiologists like myself and lab technicians are doing, is paying attention, seeing if we do see that those numbers, it shifts in any way. About 85% of the deaths each week are unvaccinated. About 15% have been vaccinated, and 85% of the deaths are unvaccinated. And when you look at the age difference, you're significantly younger if you're unvaccinated. You're in the ICU younger. You're in the general hospital younger, and you die younger if you're unvaccinated compared to the vaccinated population. Some of those deaths that occur in vaccinated individuals are elderly. They're cancer patients. They have other health issues, but the unvaccinated are still, 85% each week right now in Florida of the deaths.
Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. You can connect with me on Facebook or Instagram at PIOKevinW, or you could WhatsApp me at 407-267-8402.
All right, folks, big shout out again to Kevin. He's doing a fantabulous job. We might have to try and find some CMR budget to bring him on on permanently, y'all. Let's get a hire Kevin GoFundMe page or something going. I've refreshed, so I don't know if that's going to help the quality and Facebook in particular. I had to get my chair, so I'm sitting down now, y'all. This morning I'm just a little bit exhausted, actually. if I had the luxury, I would actually sleep in today. Like I would literally take the day off and just sleep in all day long. I'd be in bed, order some bonbons and Netflix, or I don't really watch Netflix, but bonbons and Lifetime or something. Thank you so much, Andrew. Yes, I did uninstall it already. So I actually use two WhatsApp options on the same PC. I'm going to talk about a little bit of tech this morning. This feels like a Tech Thursday segment, but it's not. But we can talk about tech anytime, right? So listen, I do have the download app, and then I also use the browser one in what is this, Firefox, for my other PC, because Roque, I only 99.9% of my communication with my customers there is definitely in WhatsApp. So thankfully yesterday they didn't have any issues, because I don't really see where I missed any messages or anything like that. So that was good. But yes, I'm using both. The web-based one, I just had to log back in. But yeah, Andrew, you're right. I had to uninstall the desktop version. Roger says yesterday should have been a very productive day at work because Facebook and WhatsApp was down. Did you see all the memes that started circulating about this? I'll share one, and then we'll talk about politics a little bit more. But there's this one that speaks to Roger's point. There's a lot of them. Listen, Twitter, we're on Twitter, but we don't, for us, Twitter isn't, I feel like in Cayman, the vast majority of people are Facebook and Instagram users. That's like 97% of the users. Yeah, there's a few people on Twitter, but again, Roger, your point, me when my WhatsApp and Instagram stopped working and I had to do actual work at the office. SpongeBob crying. Oh, this is one of the Cayman Waste ones. Shout out to Cayman Waste. They have a lot of really funny memes and stuff. But yes, there were tons of memes out there. Oh my God, I got so many last night. Twitter was having a good time making fun of Facebook. It's so funny that companies get in on it and you don't take it seriously. It's like, yeah, I mean, Twitter might have an outage tomorrow. Heaven forbid for them. It is what it is. You've got to know that it's a little bit tongue in cheek. Like sometimes I have a laugh or a giggle when I see the compass do certain things, but then I know, hey, tomorrow is probably going to be my turn to screw up and misspell a word and whatever. And, I don't take it all that seriously. Like it's not really, the world isn't going to end because, someone has misspelled it. Remember the one last week where they put that the vaccine is not the vaccine. They said the virus was on the way. Sorry. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, the virus is on the way. Listen, human beings are behind everything. The technology, they're the ones making changes. And yeah, sometimes we get it wrong and we screw up. It's good for a laugh for like a couple seconds. And then you just quickly move on to the next thing, the next greatest thing. So there was one that had, hold on. I'm going to show you guys this one. This one was kind of funny with Netflix, where it was like, hold on. I'm going to just share my screen because I've got some of these on, up on Facebook already. Facebook. The addiction is real. So there was this one. Scared you today, didn't I? Oh, Lord. This one is like so weird. Instagram, dead in the background. WhatsApp is dead. Facebook is dead. And here's Netflix. Ew. I don't even know what. This one is it's kind of funny, but it's kind of weird. Like, what the heck is he licking? What is that? Everybody else is like dead from whatever it is that they ate or whatever. And there's Netflix. Netflix is up. Here's another one. Famous Maury. You said you weren't addicted to Facebook. Today, we determined that was a lie. The addiction is real. And then there's a few more that we received, but we posted those last night. Pretty funny. So, yeah, we've all survived the big outage. Oh yeah, there was one that said that as well. Oh, I survived the outage of 2021. I thought, Lord Jehovah. Rachel says Facebook whistleblower, Facebook over and over again chose to optimize for its own interests, like making more money. She said, adding that thousands of pages of evidence show the company has lied about making progress to combat hate, violence, and misinformation. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna definitely read that article, Rachel. Send that to me in WhatsApp because send it to me in WhatsApp. Because yeah, I mean, I think that Facebook really needs to pull up their pants when it comes to certain things. All right, so let's talk about this government and politically what happened yesterday. So let me pull up this video. So of course, like I said, the opposition was in full swing, taking advantage of the situation. And here they are with the protesters out front.
I want to thank you also too for standing for the Constitution. That's probably one of the biggest reasons for being here.
All right, so let's talk about it. First of all, the vast majority of them were not wearing their mask. I think John might have been the only one that was mask wearing. Let me just see here. We're gonna let it play on the side over here. Oh, he even took his off. The leader of the opposition wasn't wearing his mask. Is that a note in his hand where he's actually reading what he's trying to say to the people in real terms? And like, I like Mr. McTaggart as a person, but as a politician, the best way to describe what I think of him when I see him as a politician is this. Where was Al then? Anyway, he must have been late because he hardly shows up to the LA anymore. So there is at least at Roy Tatum. Hey, Roy Tatum, how you doing? He's there video recording it so he can post it up on the Facebook page for the progressives. Not mask wearing. None of them right there. Look right there. Mr. Kirkconnell isn't wearing a mask. Joey isn't wearing a mask. The opposition leader isn't wearing a mask. The opposition leader seems to be taking some counsel from Joey. He's probably telling him, Roy, this is what you need. This is what you really should be saying right now. Put those notes down. I'm going to tell you what you're going to say. Oh, okay. And then John, who was wearing a mask for a minute, took that off quickly. And then the audience members, hold on, I'm going to rewind it. Look at the audience members. The 99.9% of them, no social distancing. And this is why people are messaging me like, wow, nobody's going to enforce this. Nope. No social distancing whatsoever. And the interesting thing about an environment like this. So someone was asking me about the gym protocols, right? One of the reasons why they're so strict with gyms, bars, and restaurants, but particularly when you exercise. We talked about this last year in 2020. There was this 2020, yes. There was a study that came out that showed that when you exercise, because the projection of you're running and you're huffing and puffing, whatever, your ability to transport a sneeze or droplets or whatever air you're pushing forward is significantly more, upwards of, I think it was something like, 20 feet or something ridiculous, is far more than if you're just talking under normal circumstances. So even mask wearing in those circumstances becomes so much more critical Because when you're out in a protest and you're yelling and you're projecting, you're doing all that stuff, look at the distance. Now, I'm not the best at measuring distance, right? So help me out here. If you are Mr. McTaggart, right, leader of the opposition, how far do you think he is from those people there? It's definitely not 20 feet. Is it maybe 4 feet? Is that a 4-foot distance? Is that a 6-foot distance? But when you know that they're projecting anything that they have so much further than that, we're in a situation right now where we have community spread and you have that many people on top of each other. Some of y'all become COVID positive. I wouldn't be surprised. And neither should you. In those circumstances. Yes, a lot of them had masks in their hand, but they simply were not wearing them is the problem. So we can fast forward a little bit. Look at there. One guy in the blue hat is wearing a mask. All the frontline people not wearing masks. Even the photographer here from the Compass isn't wearing a mask. Is that Richie? Richie, is that you there in the front line? Oh, there's that lady and 2 women right there next to each other wearing masks. That one isn't wearing one. One right there was. I would say probably at least 90% of the people in this video were not wearing a mask. So Jonathan said, I'm glad to see they had such a good turnout. That raffle is still on for the 14th. $100,000. Yeah, there is Mario Rankin not wearing a mask. By the way, not for nothing, but Mario was in the Legislative Assembly where masks were required. And I caught him in the gallery actually not wearing a mask at some point as well. The dude just plays by his own rules. And of course, when there is no enforcement, you get used to doing whatever you want to do. Nobody tells you what to do. And to me, this is what this argument is all about. That nobody gets to tell you how to live your life, even if it's based on science and it's based on the efficacy of a vaccine that has been around forever, in terms of the technology that the vaccine is based on. Kevin, we need to do a snippet video. I don't know if you're still listening, but we need to do a snippet video about the mRNA technology. Because when that doctor explained it on the last show about how your body has mRNA in it, to me, that really brought the point home. I was like, oh, wow, okay. So this isn't some foreign thing that's being injected into your cells. So many people are just misinformed. And I find that when someone breaks it down in such a way that you go, okay, now I understand what mRNA is. I get it. Kevin says he has done one. Shoot it to me real quick, Kevin, so I can pull it down. Yeah, to me, that makes a huge difference, eh? Oh, my body already has mRNA? It's like, we don't even understand what the hell mRNA is. And so when everyone's like, oh, they're invading your DNA with this foreign stem cell. Oh my God, I'm so scared of that. No, that's not what's happening at all. Oh, okay. Well then, gosh darn it, that makes a big difference, doesn't it? Yeah. That's why it's important to learn things in life. It's important to educate yourself. Right? We're doing our best to help the process along, but some of y'all just stubborn. And some of the nicest people just don't want any accurate information, man. I'm telling you. Dan, says with only 300 people, if that people there, they do not represent the majority of Caymanians. Well, definitely there weren't 300 people. They're saying that on Saturday's protest, they might have been closer to that. This is more like the 50 people, I think, if you sat and counted them. But Dan makes the point that they do not represent the majority of Caymanians, less than 0.5% as guests there. They should be vaccinated or returned to their place of origin. Rachel says if anyone at that rally is unknowingly positive and they're up together yelling and bellowing, that potential event has that potential that has potential to be a super spreader event. It really does. Like legit, it really, really does. How often are the members of the LA being tested, by the way? I would love to know that, because after that, I think every member should be running to get tested. So here's what we know about yesterday's proceedings. They're going to wind up this morning, and then they have a committee, and then they're going to finish with the report, and the third reading will probably happen by mid-afternoon. So the third and final reading is what we're going to be looking forward to. So we'll see how that goes this afternoon. Thank you, Kevin, for shooting that over to me. I'm just going to pull up this explanation for mRNA versus your DNA. Really, really important information. Wanda says, who is going to do the contact tracing for this event? Honey child, I have no clue. Listen, almost no school right now is being spared in Cayman. All the government schools, Prospect Primary, Georgetown already got hit, John Gray, Clifton Hunter. Has John Gray had any cases? I felt like they've had like one or two. So they're figuring it out. They're not shutting down the entire schools when this happened, because this is going to be our life. When Alden says, oh, we can't learn to live with this, what are you talking about? Of course we're going to have to live with this. Go back to what this man said when he was sitting there every day having a press conference. What was he saying about living with COVID? He says, saying that we must learn to live with COVID-19 is like saying we must learn to live with polio or smallpox. Well, with all due respect, Alden, you had to live with polio or smallpox until a vaccine came around. And in that day and age, what they did was vaccine. There was no choice whatsoever. Vaccines were mandatory. Literally in the US, they went door to door with the polio vaccine, knocked on your door, and you were like, hello, this is whoever. They probably didn't give you a proper identification. We're here to just give you a shot right now. Just open up the door. And you opened the door and you got the injection in your arm. You didn't ask any questions. You certainly were not asking what's in it, because it's like, huh? What do you mean what's in it? We're here to save lives. Open up, roll up your sleeve. And they gave you the polio vaccine just like that. And it saved countless lives. So did it actually, did people have to live with it? People had to live with it. People died with it too. So this is again where, this government, the previous government, the opposition now, is playing a lot of games. Alden, you explain to me what this means. You have no choice. Back in the day, people living with polio and smallpox also had no choice. He says, until we are able to vaccinate all demographics, if that is the case, you guys should not be out there, because you said it yourself. You have been pro-vaccination. And by the way, Mr. Roy McTaggart made this point in his speeches that their government were the ones who were pro-vaccine from day one. He even took a little swipe at this government, saying that his government was vaccinated before members of this government, which is factually true. I'm going to give the man his credit. He's absolutely right. There were members of the current government who did not get vaccinated until after the election. He's 1,000% correct. But if you're so pro-vaccination, why are you out there encouraging people who are saying that they don't want to get vaccinated? That'll make no sense. This, my friend, is where you're talking about when someone speaks through both sides of their mouths. So until we're able to vaccinate all demographics in our population, we're playing Russian roulette, he says. Well, I would like to know, how do you propose to vaccinate all demographics? How is that going to happen if you do not mandate vaccines? The only thing I believe is missing from the mandating of vaccines is that they should mandate it for civil servants as well. So do I think the government is a little bit soft on the mandating of vaccines? Hell yeah. Cold hard truth moment, extra truthful Thursday. They should mandate it for everyone that is eligible to get it. So unless you do have a medical reason, that you cannot get vaccinated, then it should be mandated. Civil servants are the government is the biggest employer. Lead by example. There are other people who are mandating it, other companies to a certain extent. Upon renewal of permits, whatever, you have to prove your vaccination status or get tested weekly. Government should be doing that too. Make all civil servants get tested weekly. Yeah, I'm all for it. So, I'm still waiting for Alden to give us some idea of what his solution would have been. Miss Brenda says, aren't masks mandated again? Child, they just ignored masks, social distancing. They don't care. Those are of the people that are not in the drawing. They won't win anything. Which people? So if you've been vaccinated, you're automatically entered. Yeah. Opposition didn't wear masks. Listen, these people are just jokers. All right. Rachel says, people who can't get vaccinated often want all the rights, provoke and benefit of human community without any sense of obligation to be responsible for those. Yeah, what I don't quite get is that people have a desire to have these rights, right? And then they don't want any of the consequences that come with it. Like they want to make all the decisions. Like I was saying yesterday, it's really bizarre how people feel like they can tell an employer, like, these are going to be the conditions of my employment. And it's like, listen, an employment contract is actually a two-way situation, right? So somebody puts an offer on the table, you can agree to those terms or not. That's your choice. So you always have a choice. And your choice is you can agree to not do it. And if you agree, if you decide to not do it, then that's fine. But there are consequences. So if there are terms in a contract that I present to you and that you don't like, then you simply don't get you don't accept the contract. But that could mean you don't have a job. That could mean all sorts of different things. And it is what it is. That's how contracts work. And an employment contract is still a contract, folks. Let's listen to what the experts had to say about mRNA versus your DNA. Nicole does have another question. She says, another concern I've had is that people say that the mRNA, in quotations, messes with your DNA. Can you explain this mRNA technology? I know people think that it's relatively new. I've read personally that it's been around for some 50 years, and at least the beginnings of it. And there's been a lot of, research that's gone into mRNA. But what would you say to that question about it messing with your DNA? And how do we alleviate the fears that come when you talk about the mRNA technology?
Yeah, this is kind of because of my pharmacy background. This is kind of where I'm an expert. Let me, as I've talked to the public, and I do a lot of these kind of shows, I just want to just make sure that we understand something. mRNA is in everybody's body right now. It's how it's just a code that tells your body how to print certain proteins in your body. So the example I give, if you're on a computer and you type the word, type the word COVID, and you hit the print button, your computer sends a code to the printer that tells it to print a piece of paper with the word COVID on it. And the moment it prints out, the code is done. Messenger RNA does nothing more than tell a little printer in your cells called a ribosome to print a certain kind of protein that results in your body building up very good robust antibodies against the particular coronavirus. It never encounters your DNA. It's not programmed to encounter your DNA. It has no capability of encountering your DNA. It will not encounter your DNA in your reproductive organs or anywhere else in your body. And so we have to be very clear about that. Messenger RNA is what tells your body. All of us have messenger RNA in our body. And by the way, when you get injected with an mRNA vaccine, within beginning 12 hours later, your body is already breaking it down and getting rid of it. And by 24 hours, it's all the way gone out of your body. Your body has broken it down. So I hear that a lot. But messenger RNA has nothing at all to do with your DNA. It's an impossibility.
So, folks, I hope that you heard what the man said. It's an impossibility. And this is just us not understanding, and I'm guilty of this too. I mean, how many of you even heard of mRNA technology, although they've been studying it for some 50 years? How many of you even heard about it beforehand, right? Nobody. Unless you are a researcher, you're a medical professional, you were in that area already, then you would be well versed in the mRNA technology. But up until then, y'all not know nothing about no mRNA. Now, all of a sudden, everybody wants to be an mRNA expert. You know? Someone actually sent me something very, very interesting about mRNA. So here's another one. And again, you know, I think that this information is critical for people to understand, because the only way you can debunk misinformation is with accurate information, right? Absolutely. Here we go.
Everybody who knows us knows that we are very different. I am talkative and bubbling, and Drew is more scientific. You are coming from A to B in a straight line, and I am A to B like that. He told me that. Yeah. But we try to go to the same place.
It's actually funny the way Katie and I met. Back in those days, the only way you could read journal articles is you had to photocopy them out of the journal. And we would fight over the copy machine to be able to read articles. And we started talking and comparing what each other did.
I was working with RNA, and I learned all of the immunology from you.
We started working on RNA to try and understand why it was so inflammatory. We were both completely open-minded. Any data that we didn't understand, and there was a lot of it, we sat down, we kept doing experiments, we kept getting results, we kept getting excited by the results.
Middle of the night, submitting grants, and 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, sending each other, and you are still up, and I'm still up.
We couldn't have come to the result without both of us being involved.
I was making the RNA, and Drew was checking whether it is immunogenic, not immunogenic. Then he gave us the data, and we leap over, and we try to understand and make sense of it.
Finally, we figured out how to make it non-inflammatory.
And then our mind was all over the place.
Just going in every direction, thinking a year in the future.
We just were amazed that, oh my God, this is what it means.
And after that is when the vaccine field and other RNA fields took off.
Coronavirus officially hitting the U.S.
Cases here in the U.S. have exploded. All-time highs today in many locations.
When we started this, we weren't thinking about curing pandemics. We were thinking about making new vaccines. We had 5 phase 1 clinical trials of different mRNA vaccines that we were working on before COVID-19 ever hit. And we knew at that time that this had the potential to be an incredible vaccine.
Moderna already tested influenza vaccine, which was mRNA vaccine, 2 years before. It was just the public didn't know about that.
1, 2, 3. You will not believe how happy I am. Yay!
Seeing the phenomenal success of vaccinated people being protected gives me incredible amounts of joy.
I was really happy when people wrote me emails and said that they could see their parents and family members. They could meet each other.
We haven't thought of all of the things you can do with mRNA. My family, and I'm sure my lab, is mad at me that I didn't celebrate when the phase 3 clinical trials came in. I had already moved on to something new. We were working on pan-coronavirus vaccines, sickle cell anemia gene therapy, malaria with people across the US and in Africa, leptospirosis with people in Southeast Asia, vaccines for peanut allergies. We're working on really every imaginable infectious disease.
I was always interested about this fragile molecule, this RNA, and still today I am following scientists discovering new things, and I am just fascinated, just like an exciting crime story, and I am so glad that it eventually helps humanity.
I never sit back and rest on laurels. I'm always moving forward. I'm always moving on to the next disease, the next vaccine, the next therapeutic. And that's just the way I think.
We worked together a lot. Yep. And we had a lot of fun.
It was a lot of years, but they weren't boring years.
It was very enjoyable. To be a scientist is a joy.
So again, folks, what you don't know can kill you. You know, there's a saying that ignorance is bliss. And unfortunately, that is not a position that people should take, because what you don't know can be deadly. Yeah. So this technology has been around a long time. Those two individuals working independently and then eventually working together have really made it possible for the mRNA technology to move forward in the way that it has. So thank you so much. Gigi says, please remember this information and picture that are showing now for the next election, idiot people. I think we read that one already. Oh, people who don't want vaccinated seem to want all the rights, privileges, and benefits of human community without any sense of obligation to be responsible participants in that community. Yeah, it is really weird to me. I'll be honest with you, that those are the same people who are pushing for all of the freedoms in the world. Like, they don't think that their choices should have any consequences for them. And for me, when you're talking about a communicable disease, I find that to be incredibly selfish, first of all, and not particularly well-informed. You know? It's crazy. Oh my gosh, look at what just showed up on my timeline. Facebook always throws you back a moment. Vaccine clinic, let me get that information for you. Dan says, I guess the right wing has made it to Keyman, get vaccinated and quit your bitching. Can I tell you, in terms of, good morning, Honorable Kenneth Bryan, in terms of the right wing, like, I don't get into, I really hate US politics with passion these days, but I don't even know which side is supposed to be right and which side is supposed to be left and who's in the middle. And it's just like, blows my mind. But what I do know is that, it's stupid to interject politics into this discussion. For me, this is a discussion it should be based on science. That's why I don't like when people play political games with this, which I think is being done by the current opposition. You got to follow the science. Speak to the experts, they find the information. Having said that, I have received information that, and I'm going to see if I can find this really quickly, that in fact, there are, this freedom to choose movement, that it has been supported by some organization called FLCCC, which is some kind of nonprofit network of doctors attempting to, yes. So a network of doctors attempting to establish protocols for COVID-19 patients' care. In the initial days, the group became an early advocate for the use of steroids and treatments, and in late 2020 shifted to its focus on ivermectin. So someone sent this to me yesterday, and I'll share this with you all. Give me 1 second. I shared a post on Facebook the other day, and someone is like, she probably made that up herself. I'm like, y'all are crazy. First of all, I don't even know how do you make up a WhatsApp conversation? This is where someone like, oh, these people are idiots and whatever, but how do you make up a WhatsApp conversation? I don't even think that that's possible. Like, I don't know how you do that. You'd have to be a Photoshop expert to make it look like it's a WhatsApp conversation. I can assure you that I don't have the time for that. And yes, there are people who will send me messages. And sometimes I just screenshot the message and post the message up. I try to take out the identity of the people because they often don't want their identity revealed, or, it was technically a private conversation. But this one came in and this person shared this in The Guardian. And so basically this talks about this group called BIRD, which is a nonprofit group of doctors in the UK who took on a similar advocacy role, published and analyzing, promoting the drug, and the group started and now defunct GoFundMe page to get help for a life-saving drug approved for COVID-19. The funny thing is, a lot of these organizations are themselves motivated by profit. And then they want to push this narrative that, Pfizer is motivated by profit. Well, yes, Pfizer is a drug company and they're in the business of making drugs. But the way that they make money is by making drugs that work and that save lives. Nobody's going to be, governments around the world wouldn't be buying Pfizer or any other drug if it actually didn't work. So there's that little minor detail that people miss. Yes, every business is in it to make money, but if you're not providing a service to people that actually works, no one is going to need your service or your goods. So, that seems like a little bit of inconvenient information. So they've gone on this whole media blitz during the last year, publishing protocols and promotional material on ivermectin, giving interviews to news outlets, holding panels, and appearing on podcasts. So these groups have relied on weak data, ignored studies that show that ivermectin actually causes more damage, and it does not work. It's ineffective. So BIRD founder, I don't know who Teslawi is, told The Guardian that BIRD is a crowd-funded initiative aimed at getting ivermectin approved for COVID-19. So they have an initiative of their own, and that it stands by their claim that the drug could end the pandemic. Well, that's not been proven in weeks if used for prevention and treatment. Oh my God. Seriously? Anyway, this is what they believe. But here's what's interesting. In September, the FLCCC and BIRD sent open letters to health departments in Australia, New Zealand, Iceland, and the Cayman Islands, advocating for the use of ivermectin for a variety of COVID-19 treatments. Listed as partner organizations on the letter were several international anti-vaccination groups, including the Organization of Prolific Anti-Vaxxer Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, why I'm sharing this is this goes back to that last comment that was just made by Dan about the right wing. Now, like I said, I don't know if they're right wing, left wing, under the wing. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is there are definitely organizations and external forces who are pushing this narrative here in the Cayman Islands. Now, a lot of you have asked who's funding this, who's out there funding some of these adverts. Listen, they paid for a full page advert in the Compass. And we know that that's what's the going rate for full page advert in the Compass? I don't even know, but somebody told me what it was. That's a couple $1,000s easily. They've been paying for radio ads. They actually have money. Is Dr. T putting his money behind this? Probably. We know that Katina doesn't have any money. We know that for all of his fancy cars, Mario has limited resources from what we've heard. So there's somebody behind it who's actually happy to put their money behind it. Some of this helps explain a little bit of what's going on. Do I think that Dr. T has a financial interest in bringing and getting Sinopharm here in the Cayman Islands? Yes. Just being honest. He's a doctor. Doctors are in the business of making money. If he was a doctor that had no interest in making money, well, no, doctors in the business of making money. Let me just leave it there. So Raymond, thank you. He says today, the vaccination center is at Lion Center, starting at 11 a.m. until 3 and then 4:30 until 7. Jonathan says that, listen, he's trying to win that vaccine money, that vaccine raffle. So don't promote it, because then that means that more people get entered. He's going to have more competition. Brenda says, do you remember when MPs White and Hugh went on For the Record and said that they support mandating the vaccine except for Caymanians? I don't remember that, because I don't listen to On the Record, to be honest. But having said that, I wouldn't be surprised by that, because like I said, they speak out of convenience. So nothing surprises me with that bunch. They just hope that people don't remember what they actually say, which is unreal. Let me see. As you guys can see, I'm actually sitting down. I'm using one of my kitchen bar stools because they're the right height for this show. By the way, anybody knows a good upholstery company? The seats on these need to be reupholstered. They have that kind of thin leather, and they're starting to fall apart around the edges. But the chair otherwise is in perfectly good condition. Samoya says, what I gathered was members of the government like Kenneth felt like if we can obligate children of all nationalities on this island to be vaccinated to go to school, why is it not in the country's best interest to reduce the risk of virus impact to our healthcare facilities by ensuring all people coming to visit or on work permits are vaccinated, versus the opposition members like Joey, who thinks that it will only give Caymanians a sense of false security and that we should instead focus, and that got cut off. Alex says that if the leaders don't show social distancing, what will motivate people to do it? Well, they're supposed to be leading by example, but we can hardly see that doesn't happen. Al says no mandatory for me. Al, I'm curious, have you taken any of the other mandated vaccines? The position that California has taken, they're now going to say all children, once they're eligible and once FDA gives full approval, will have to be vaccinated, because they're just adding it to the list of other mandated vaccines in order to go to school. So, what's the difference? You took those vaccines and you never once, nor did your parents, nor did anybody else, ever question what was in them. And in fact, I'm willing to bet that when you look at the history of things like the polio vaccine, You probably should have had more concerns about that than anything else. Rhonda says, good morning, I think, Sandy, excuse me. But the former government, now the opposition, were some of the first to get the vaccine. Do they think everyone forgot? Ugh. It's ridiculous. All right, listen, I'm actually feeling really, really horrible. I've just taken my tablet. Ugh, this cold. I think this is like the worst day of it. So I think I'm going to go lie down. All of a sudden, I really started feeling like crap. All right, folks, I'm going to end the show a little bit early, 15 minutes early. Man, a cold can just take so much out of you, especially when you're not getting enough rest, which I know exactly. I know that that's what's happening here. So all of a sudden, my head is hurting. I actually feel like I want to throw up. If truth be known, I feel like crap right now. So let me go and let me go lie down for a bit. Folks, I hope I'm okay for this evening's episode. Either way, the show will go on. Kevin will be on. You guys go and enjoy your day. I'm really not feeling well all of a sudden. Like I really do feel like I need to lie down. All right, I'm out. You guys have a good day.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.